we lived on the Skelton place.
Oh, you did?
And the other was a,
Callie, turn that lamp on.
I can't think of it. But anyway, I'll think of it. But anyway, then we lived down there.
What?
And, but when we decided to move up here, they
Turn
took,
that off.
the house had 2 rooms, and then a big kitchen, and then another bedroom. But they took the front of that house and put it on, I thought it was barrels, I don't know what it was, but they raised them up and put them out on this side of the cedar trees, and we lived in that. And it was just one great big room. And we lived in that till they got this up enough that we could move in it.
And so the mom
And,
was, so you had 3 kids then?
Yeah. See if I'm... Well, we lived in the old house for a while, and it leaked like a sieve. And we knew we couldn't live in it, and it had been rebuilt, and Dad had fixed it, and I don't know how long it had been there. But anyway, Lloyd's dad was going to help. Well, they gathered up a lot of old lumber and windows. They've had to take all those things out. And but anyway, it was quite a deal. We didn't have money just to finish it, so when they got it where we could, we moved in it. And I put rugs down on the floor and everything. So anyway, well, we put linoleums at first, you know.
You did. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Been a lot of change in the last, I'll say 70 years even.
Yeah.
And a lot in the last 90 years that I remember. But I was coming out of Cheyenne, and you know, it's really beautiful from here to Cheyenne. Either way, I just thought, you know, when we have a little rain, it's really pretty, and I enjoyed the drive. And there wasn't a lot of great big trucks on the road this morning. And
That's
was
good.
too.
There's a lot of pretty flowers on the side of the road right now, isn't there?
Yeah. You know, got a whole bunch of pictures in there. I've got some that I took in my yard when it was really pretty, and I want to get them out and look at it. So remind me. But I've just kind of learned to accept it's not going to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
I'll try to focus in on the things I can do instead of the things I can't do.
Yeah.
I think if I didn't for a while, I just didn't know if I was dead or not. And then Sue's had to go through the same thing because she was all used to Dean doing everything, keeping everything. She never had mowed, and she had driven the 4-wheeler. But anyway.
What's some of your first memories? What are some of the first things you remember about being in this house? What are some of the first things you remember about being in this house?
Well, for one thing, it was so big.
Oh.
It seemed like it was humongous. And of course, this was a bedroom. And, you know, I was so happy when we got it where we could put linoleums on the floor. Of course, we didn't have a bathroom because we didn't have a well that would furnish the water.
Oh, okay.
And the pressure.
Right.
So the 3 older kids had graduated before we ever had a bathroom.
Really?
Yeah. And so we was really happy. We was thrilled when we got electricity. The first thing we bought was a refrigerator.
Oh, yeah.
And I already had an iron. Just Inez and Willie got electricity before we did, about a year before we did. So Inez, I'd go up there and iron.
Right.
And do my ironing. And I'd iron all day long. And sometimes I didn't get through.
Good grief.
Well, I had all them little dresses I had to iron.
Yeah.
Girls didn't wear pants. They wore just dresses. And I made them out of feed sacks, and they sure was wrinkles. But anyway, and then, people wouldn't do that now, but we did it just as we could afford it. Or Lloyd had time, because he held down 2 jobs in order to put food on the table. But he got an old sink somewhere, and he built a frame and set that sink in it. And then he fixed it where the water would go outside. And that was my first sink. But we had to carry the water in, but we didn't have to carry it out.
Right.
And I don't know, it was just, you just do things as you can. If you don't have money.
Right.
And we didn't want to borrow much of money you couldn't pay back.
Right.
So, and every time he'd sell some cattle or something like that, well, then we'd do a little bit more. And after we didn't take this out till, oh goodness, Christy and Joe was, no. How'd we manage that? I guess we didn't take this petition out till after Joe and Christy both left home, because this was Ronnie and Joe's bedroom, and that was the girls' bedroom in there. But at one time I had like a double bed and a single bed in that room for the girls.
Good grief.
And they had there was room enough in front of that east window for a little stand. Well, I had orange boxes, why they have the shelf in them. Well, that was their nightstand. And I took some material and made a ruffle, and a curtain put around it. Looked kind of cute.
Well, yeah.
And so that's just the way it was. We just managed best we could.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one that had boxes for stuff.
Right.
Everybody else did too. There's my fingernail on the floor.
Will you get her fingernail file? Will you tell the story about your dad making the sorghum?
Huh?
Will you tell the story about your dad making the sorghum, how he used to... And making sorghum? Wasn't that what he made?
Oh, my goodness. Now, I was about at Callie's age, I think, when he started that. And it was quite an experience. I might have been older, because, I wasn't. At first, he had to get the whole thing going. Do you know how it was a big thing? Because I don't know what this is called.
Right.
It had a big wheel in there, 2 of them. And it was a big old iron thing, and it had can't think. Like the tongue of a wagon. Along like that. Well, it was fastened to that. And then there was a horse on the end of that went around and around. Well, somebody stood and fed that cane into those rollers, and it squeezed the juice out of them. And then, where they had a barrel, a big old barrel with a Oh, kind of with a big old piece of cheesecloth over it.